What is going on, guys? How are you? Welcome back to the channel. My name is George, and in today's video we'll be taking a look at another diver. This one is from a micro brand called Carte Blanche, and the Ocean Diver is their first offering. The Ocean Diver has a lot of vintage inspired features, and I believe it shares a lot of them with the Cristopher C65 Trident. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that's a beautiful watch. This is live currently on Kickstarter, and it starts from 499 Swiss francs, which is around $540, which is not necessarily a lot of money considering the specs, and in the grand scheme of things, that's actually pretty good for a watch that, to my knowledge, is assembled in Switzerland. That being said, I also do feel there's a lot of competition within that $500 price bracket from a lot more established, more well-known brands, and also there's a lot of micro brands that have released watches recently, actually quite a few divers as well, that kind of fit within that price range. Is this good enough to compete? Let's jump into the video and find out. When I unboxed this a while back, I was pleasantly surprised because this is super solid for a prototype. And to be honest, I feel that that's how it should feel for a $500 watch to give a great first impression. It does feel like a big boy on the wrist, but in a good way. Let's have a look at some dimensions. I measured the case at 42 millimeters, and I feel that the 42 millimeters in diameter actually suit the case quite well. We have a thickness of 13.5 millimeters, but we also have a box domed sapphire crystal, so that adds to the thickness a little bit. We have a lug width of 22 millimeters, and we have a lug to lug of 47 millimeters. But we also have these mailed end links, which takes the overall lug to lug to 53. And size up to my 6.3 inch wrist, we have a weight of 155 grams. Now, I have to be honest here. I really don't understand why anyone would have male end links on watches over 41 millimeters in diameter, because I feel that limits the wrist sizes that can wear this. I see this in a lot of watches coming on the market nowadays. I presume there's a lot of factors behind this, and there's a lot of things that I don't understand that make watch brands kind of take this decision. But anyway, it's not a deal breaker. The watch wears quite well still, even for the 42 millimeter diameter. As I was mentioning, this wears as the size would suggest, like an actual 42, but not as bulky, since we have these curved lugs that conform to the wrist quite nicely. It has a very reassuring presence on the wrist, and it does actually have quite of a premium feel, I want to say. Moving on to the case, we have a 316L stainless steel construction, and we have a predominantly brushed finish with a couple of polished edges on the side that actually give it a nice looking profile. I keep going back to those curved lugs, but this is where you see those Cristopher Ward inspired lines, and again, that's nothing bad in my eyes. It's actually a good thing. One thing that I feel sticks out a bit here is the crown at the 3 o'clock, but I think that is just on this particular example that I have here, because I feel that the stem might actually be a bit too long, as it doesn't screw in all the way. Also, the actual crown could be a bit smaller. I can't really tell, as this actually might look really good with the actual crown that it has on right now if it was screwed in all the way. Move on to the bezel. It's 120 clicks. It's unidirectional with a ceramic insert. This particular model is called the Maldives, and I have to say that I'm loving this turquoise. It's a beautiful color, and it actually suits it. I'd give it, in a way, a positive, fresh vibe. This is how it looks like on my end. It does look like it belongs in those clear blue waters where you could actually see the bottom. has a coin edge and the grip is okay, not great, but despite the fact that this is a 200-meter rated diver, I doubt you'll actually be using that bezel for diving activities. The action is smooth and precise, and this loomed pip at the 12 is in a red triangle. And that red at the 12 complements the red writing on the dial quite nicely. It's nothing big, these are just small little touches, but in a way, I actually feel that it does look quite well. And speaking of that dial, it's covered by a box dome piece of sapphire crystal with air coating. And that crystal fits in the whole vintage theme quite well, I feel. We have this light charcoal gray color that can be found on both variants, and everything on it is printed. The indices in white and the minute markers and the logo at the 12 in gold. A few things that we need to cover here before moving on. All the indices are batons, single batons, and like I was mentioning, they're all printed apart from the ones at the 12 o'clock where we have double batons. I find that they're all a bit thin, and that gives the dial a bit of a flat look. I like the fact that all the indices are actually quite long though, and it doesn't give the impression that the dial is empty since you have so much of it. But all these printed batons, they all have their compromises, and that is the loom department. As it is the issue with all these dials, we only have printed indices. The loom will never be as strong, depending on the size of the indices, as the applied ones, where you can fill them with as much loom as you actually want. On this prototype, we have, from what I can see, a BGW9 on the indices and C3 on the hands. It's not a huge difference in strength though. It's okay, but it won't win any awards. Since this is a prototype, I won't be too harsh, but I'm expecting the production version, if they make it, to have a lot more going in this department. Let's talk about the movement. This is powered by the Swiss-made STP-111, which is a high beat 28,800 beat per hour automatic movement. This has 26 joules and 44 hours of power reserve and a stated accuracy of plus to minus 20 seconds per day. Since this is basically a Swiss clone of the ETA 2824, you shouldn't have any issues with it. The only variable would be that this has been around since 2008 or so, so it's relatively new. Should you be concerned about that? Not really, because it's still made by the Swiss standards. There's also other Chinese clones, and between the two, I would rather have this still. We're getting on to the final chapter here, and this is the bracelet. We have an oyster style, all brushed, polished on the side with 22mm lugs, double pushers to release. And one thing that I do have to say here, I have to apologize because in the unboxing I said that this doesn't have a diver extension, but we actually do have one. The way I see it, it's nothing practical day to day, and not just on this bracelet. I see this with all diver extensions of this style, unless you're wearing it on a diver suit every day, but it's nice to know it's there. One thing that I do like is that those male end links are very well fitted to the case, and it gives it a very premium and solid feel on the wrist. Overall, I've seen better bracelets at this price point, but I've seen much worse. As a final conclusion, all I can say is that it's safe and it ticks a lot of boxes. Summing up guys, the Ocean Diver is a great modern interpretation of a vintage inspired diver. Granted, depending on what mood you're in, you might find the dial either too flat or consistently try to make up your mind if you like it or not. And the way I see it, these mixed feelings sometimes are a good thing because they keep things interesting, and again, not just in this watch, on all watches that we wear. Guys, that was it from me. I hope you enjoyed my review of the Ocean Diver from Carte Blanche watches. Again, all the links will be in the description box below to the Kickstarter campaign, which is still going. Thank you very much for watching. Click a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, so it really helps me out. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.